Sure, so it's obvious that I'm not alone here. That's all right.
Can't get any closer.
Yes, I know.
This is around 6 feet.
I'm calling us to order. And good evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting of the Stowe Board of Selectmen to order. It's just after 7 p.m. on June 9th. And I will begin. I'm here. The full board is here, along with the town administrator. I'm not going to.
You're muted, so you have to start over.
I am?
Yep.
Hi, everybody. You missed my big introduction. I'll try to say it again. We're going to call this meeting to order. It's a little bit after 7 p.m. I'm here with the full board and the town administrator. And we will begin, as we usually do, with chairman's comments. And I just have one. I just want to remark on the passing recently, I think May 15th, of Ela Mackey. I'm sure many people in town remember Ela not only as the wife of John Mackey, former highway superintendent, but also assistant treasurer and tax collector. She retired in 1988. My neighbor, and a very, very sweet lady who I think many of us knew and will dearly miss. John passed away a couple of years ago, and I would like to ask for a moment of silence in memory of Ela. Thank you. I'll ask for public input on matters not on the agenda, and I will be taking comment from the public on the town administrator's selection. Could I ask people to mute, please? Use your electronic. Linda? Linda, are you muted? Never mind. Something's wrong with your audio, Linda. I'm sorry. Does anybody else?
3, 4, 5, 6. We can fit 2 more people.
Anybody else have any public input or anything not on the agenda? And Linda, if you're still listening, I think you're in the building. You could come up here and stand in the corner, I guess, and I'll be happy to hear whatever you got to say. All right, seeing nothing else, meeting minutes. We do have one set of minutes. Maureen, thank you very much. It's from our last meeting of May 26th. I did not take a look at it, but I will begin with Mr. Ryan, who, he doesn't find it, it's not there. Mr. Ryan?
I'm good with it.
Oh, well, what do you know? Anybody else?
I got
Any
a couple of
comments?
small things.
Pardon me, Ms. Frecha?
I have a couple of small things.
There you go. What do you got?
So I have notes on this for Marie. Okay. In the process for hiring non-boarding town administrator, the new town administrator on the first page, I propose we change the second sentence to read something like, Mr. Salvi suggested a rotation that each board member asks a question of the candidate in order.
Yeah. I think that sounds fine. Could you maybe, if Maureen didn't get that language, make sure
I've got it, she can have it.
Okay, great.
And on page 2, in the annual intermunicipal contract for animal control services, Foxborough, the town, is spelled with an UG at the end, UGH, and so there's 2 of those.
Anybody have anything else? Mr. Burke?
No.
So with those amendments, thank you, Ms.
I'll
Frecha.
make a motion that we accept the minutes of May 26th as amended.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes of May 26, 2020 as amended. Further discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor? Well, I guess I don't have to do a roll call now, even though we have Zoom. We're all physically present. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Excellent. You did it so everybody can hear. That was done very well. Comments on the correspondence? Anything anybody see in the correspondence that you want on an agenda, Mr. Burke?
Yes, there were a few emails from people who lived along Gleasondale Road about the trench that was built by N-Star. And this was raised by me at an earlier meeting when we had the highway supervisor before us, although I think it was virtually before us. That's part of the program for energy reliability so that we won't have power outages like we did have this weekend. The work that they're doing is, for some reason, first they built the trench, then they kind of paved it over in a less than permanent fashion, then they put all those tubes on the side of the road. Eventually they're going to come in, take up the temporary asphalt paving, put in the electric wiring that will increase the reliability. For some reason it's taken longer than I thought it would, but anyone who's experiencing problems with their abutting properties, I think we fielded one of those already, and but certainly if you've got any kind of other property damage, bring it to our attention, and we'll try to get it remedied or reimbursed. Is that fair?
I assume you've talked to somebody about the I assume you're not making a personal offer there, Mr. Burke.
I said we would try to get it remedied or reimbursed. I didn't say we're guaranteeing anything. We'll, as we did with that one Stowe resident who complained about her, and rightfully about her driveway, we did take steps to see that it was remedied, and I appreciate our administrative assistant's work on that.
Thank you. So you're not asking that that be put on an agenda, you were just clarifying or answering what was in some...
Yes, and perhaps that was out of...
No, it's fine. Actually, it's good. It's really good. Thank you. Anybody have anything else? So much easier than on Zoom. I'd forgotten what this was like.
Group up.
All right. I think we've come to, normally I would say the selection of a new town administrator was the most important thing on an agenda. It probably is, but it has some competition tonight. We're going to come to the discussion and hopefully a vote on the candidates for town administrator. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the process last Saturday. It seems like it was longer than a couple of days ago. So it's all right with you. What I thought I would do is that we would start with first impressions of the candidates from the selectmen, and then go around straw poll, for lack of a better word, as to who your first pick is, understanding not set in stone at all at that point. Then we'd hear from the town administrator. Then I would go to the public, probably first trying to hear from any members of the screening committee, and then members of the public. Members of the public, I'm probably not going to have time. It's not a public hearing. I will not have time to hear it from everyone, I don't think, but I will try. I would ask you to try to keep comments succinct. We have quite the agenda tonight. Anybody mind if I start? Well, first of all, does that sound okay with the selectmen?
Yep, works for me.
All right with that, Brian?
As the chair pleases.
As the chair pleases. All right. So I thought that all the candidates would be capable of doing the job, but I saw some important differences. By quite a bit, I think right now that Denise Dembkoski is probably the best choice. She has experience in what seems to be a similar community, and she really sounds like she's a one-woman band over there. She could no doubt make the transition here, I think, very easily. I was impressed with several things. I was impressed with her description of how she'd go about the budget process. I particularly liked that she'd require goals from the departments and ask them in the following years how they had met those goals. That should try to include other employees besides department heads in the process. I'm not exactly sure I know what that means right now, but I like the sounds of it. And most of all, I really like that she would be publishing a lot of information on the budget and broken down beyond salary and expenses. I liked her answers to the question about the manager who's seeking the 15% increase. It matched what I consider to be the current flexible culture here. I liked her answer to the 10-year goal question and the long-term problems. She gave a good summary of, obviously, the tax-based problem. I wish she had gone into some other non-economic things, like development, golf courses, but I do give her a lot of credit for being the only candidate who raised the police chief situation. She probably thought twice about that, but I liked the way she handled it. Hard to read my own handwriting here. I liked her answer to the question about the difficulties of a regional school system that takes up 63% of your budget. Her answer basically was, let them know where you stand, and I'm paraphrasing, let them know where you stand, where your line is, but work with them. And I can see that working especially well with Superintendent Clenchey, who has been very transparent. I liked her answer about economic development. She acknowledged in a community like ours how difficult it is. She kind of admitted to not having had much success there, which I liked in a job interview, but she also made clear that she had done her level best. Her answers were crisp, to the point, strikes me as a fairly no-nonsense manager, but very engaging. I found the rapport between her and the board, at least me, was very good. I have other stuff to say, but I don't have any time. Was confident that Tom Guerino could come in here and do the job. Confident there's probably no issue here that he hasn't seen at one point in the past. Of the three, I thought he did his homework on us the best, and I appreciated that. I liked his calls to the department heads. I'm not sure he did the most with that information that he could have, but I like that he did it. I like that his goal seemed to be to want employees to like coming to work, which dovetailed with his more horizontal than vertical comment. That said, I like Denise's collaboration is fine to a point, but eventually a decision has to be made a little bit better. It matches my own philosophy, for better or worse. I think Tom would make every effort to make a commute from Vermont work, but I expect that unfortunately something would probably happen that would make that very difficult eventually. His answer to the question about the manager asking for 15% was a little bit inflexible, perhaps showed his experience in a larger town with more civil service than we have, and I'm skeptical that Bourne is that comparable to Stowe in a lot of ways. I'm confident that Kellie Hebert could also do the job, but I'm not sure that she communicated that very well. Her answers were not as crisp and concise as the others. I did like her emphasis on building relationships, which is important in a decentralized form of government. I felt that I did not get a good sense. I got a good sense of her philosophy and her approach. I didn't get a good sense of what she would actually do or how she would approach things. I was concerned enough about, I watched all the interviews again on YouTube, and even when I watched it on YouTube, I had the same difficulty. So those are my initial impressions. Who wants to go second?
As the chair pleases.
Ms. Frecha.
Well, there's not a lot left to say,
Well,
which is excellent.
I didn't mean to suck all the oxygen out of the room, sorry.
Again.
Yeah, I can do that.
I'm appreciative of your thoughtful comments. I would rank the candidates similarly if you were ranking them in your comments. I found Denise Dembkoski the most, I felt like the connection with her was the strongest. She seemed pretty unfazed. She seemed self-assured in a good way, and highly capable. And as you said, coming from a town that seemed to have many comparable attributes and issues. I felt that Tom Guerino was also, he seemed like he could be quite adequate to the task, although different, a very different tone. But he seemed qualified, and although has worked recently in a much larger town, I liked the fact that he was from Greenfield. I feel my experience with people that have spent time in the Pioneer Valley is that how do I express this? He was, it feels to me like he would understand the town of Stowe because of his Pioneer Valley basis. in spite of the fact that he's recently worked in a much larger town. But that was more of a feeling than something that's proven. And I was happy with his answer about his tenure in Bourne, his 13 good years and 18 months that were less good. I felt that was a decent answer without going into a lot of detail. I find there are times when it's better not to dwell on things that may have gone somewhat wrong if they're not really germane to the current situation. And finally, I would choose Kellie Hebert last. I felt that she was affable, and I was very impressed with her resume and her experience, but I found her answers, as you did, less compelling. I felt as though it was hard to really connect with her in terms of how she would fit here and how she would actually approach a lot of things. I felt as though her answers were sort of vague.
Thank you. How about Mr. Burke?
First, I thought there were 3 superb candidates, and the Town Administrator Screening Committee should be once again lauded for providing us with such a difficult job. Any of these 3 could do the job that Stowe has for them. But not only in the interest of brevity, my answer and ranking will not be as detailed as the chair's, nor will it be even as thoughtful, because it's a gut decision on my part. I agree that Denise Dembkoski is the right fit for this town. She's got the kind of background that we're looking for. She has, I think, a personality that would work well in this town. But more importantly, I think it's the right fit for her. I don't mean to be presumptuous, but this is what she's been looking for, I think, some time now. She wants to advance from her current position to be a town administrator, and she will be excited, she will be enthusiastic, she will be hardworking. And she could not have, and I'm not saying that their current town administrator will take on this role, but if she wanted a mentor, she couldn't find a better mentor. And that's exactly the point of her career that she's in right now. She needs a mentor to take her up to the next step. And she would be, I think, an asset to this town for many years to come. It's just a fit feeling. As to the other 2 candidates, I am afraid I disagree with my colleagues in the ranking, but not by much. I think Kellie Chapman, I felt that she was a little nervous and she was talking a lot in response to our questions, but that's to be understood. I think, and again, this is a fit instinct that comes from the gut and maybe a little bit of the heart. I think Mr. Guerino is extremely qualified, but I'm not sure that he would be a good fit for a small town after working so long in Bourne. He's got, I think, a way of doing things. He's got some imperatives. I think he's probably taken on a lot of responsibility in the past, maybe with or without the Board of Selectmen of Bourne's. But I know that Debbie and I also think Kellie would always be listening to the board and taking their, not on financial matters, but on policy matters. I have every confidence that they would be responsive and cooperative in working with the board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
You guys have pretty much said it all. I think Denise Dembkoski actually has the entire package that we're looking for. She's smart, she seems to have a good fit, no nonsense, and I agree with Brian that that Stowe is probably a good fit for her also. As far as Tom goes, I think he could probably do the job. I have concerns about having really dealt with a much larger town, and I think he might have a bit more of a struggle here. As far as Kellie goes, I think Kellie could fit in here fairly well. She's had the experience at a town the same size, and while she did ramble a little bit more, I can tend to ramble occasionally myself.
No.
You know, it's you know, I think she could do the job also, and I think she'd do it well. So,
Is the order you discussed them in your ranking right now, or is that an unfair
well,
question?
you said you didn't necessarily want to rank them.
So you're not, so other than the first one, it's
No,
not?
I just went in order of the,
Okay, thank you.
but, you know, with my initial comment.
So we are unanimous on the first pick. We may have some differences on the second and third. As I said, let me turn to the town administrator for your impressions and advice.
Much of what I would say about the three collectively and individually would be redundant. I would say this, that for me, it was not close for first. It was closer perhaps for second and third. But Denise, I'll define her as a professional of practice. And what that means to say for me is that often when you dissect a resume, on paper, the nature and extent of the work that they do, the scope, their understanding, and whether there's working knowledge or not, it's hard to discern. In the two questions I asked her, we never got to the third, but I was persuaded that what that resume says she does, and she does it well. And to use that term, good fit, for that and a number of other reasons that would be redundant, she's almost, I think, potentially a perfect match here and could be here for a long time, which I think in the end would be the most advantageous thing about it. It indicates success, and I think it would, everything else being equal, wouldn't it be best if you could have someone for 10, 15, 20 years because of the right reasons, instead of many communities go through this cycle and this process frequently, and that's almost never advantageous to the community and its constituents in my experience.
I agree, but we can't ask her to commit to 28 years, Mr. Town Administrator.
Now, I'm not,
We can ask. Let me go first to Town Administrator Screening Committee members. I see Nikki, I thought I saw Allison, I do see Allison. Do you guys want to say anything? Raise your electronic hand. I'm not sure I'll see that. I'm not seeing any electronic hand. Am I missing something here? No. All right, I will go to any members of the public. Either raise your electronic hand or just wave at the camera. One way or the other, I'll see you. Am I getting no one wants to speak? Is this possible? I must have a technical glitch. Linda.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right, sorry. I thought all three candidates were extremely strong candidates, and I think they would be a great addition to our staff, and I look forward to working with them, and I'm looking forward to your vote.
No help.
Well, nice to hear. Thank you. Anybody else?
Can't have all three, though.
I don't think we can afford that.
Bill Byron, you just went your video came on. Do you have something to say?
Take the silence as acceptance.
Silent? Hi, Bill.
I'm not really qualified to speak to the abilities or qualifications of these people.
Of course you are.
I did watch the interviews, and sort of like Brian, it's not so much an educated view, but a gut feeling. I was impressed with the first candidate's, the way she expressed herself. I think, if I didn't mishear, that she spoke to an open door policy similar to what our current administrator has. I would be in favor of that.
Yes. We'll make sure she knows she has to spend some time with you. We'll put it in the contract, Bill.
But I'm sure all of them were qualified in different ways, perhaps. But if you're looking for an outside opinion, I would be in favor of that first meeting.
All right, thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Kathy?
I don't have a raised hand here on this computer. I just want to second Brian's comments. I thought they were right on. And just to speak to Denise, I found her extremely impressive. And I was really struck by her calm, competent, and confident demeanor. I liked her plan for her first few months on the job and her focus on being visible, transparent, and approachable. I really didn't feel that she presented a single negative from my perspective, and I think she would be a great cultural fit for Stowe as a community and also with the town employees. I was excited about the idea of working with her, and really felt that she was head and shoulders over the other two candidates. I think that she has the poise and the people skills to successfully transition from Bill's era of leadership to her own. And to bring us all along with her. So I thought she was great.
Thank you. All right, I don't think I see anyone else, so I'm going to go back. So I'm going to make
Jim,
Yes.
Ellen here.
Hi, Ellen. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on my phone. I can't get the camera to work, but you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
I want to echo what a lot of you said. I think she really expressed herself incredibly well. There was a few things I particularly liked around the budget process, I think you mentioned, and just the fit, where she's coming from a town that's very size-wise and sort of talent-wise by things that we also deal with the regional school committee, the size of the population, rough budgets, and the fact that she's, nominally a finance person, I think calms a lot of people, including myself, that, she's coming in knowing that that's a strong need of ours to follow in Bill's footsteps. And I guess I don't know if we'll be talking about the other candidates. My biggest concern about Tom, even though I thought he had an enormous experience, was that they're living far away, as much as we've done that for a long time. I would like to have someone who's closer. And I just want to say thank you to the screening committee for trying to find them. I mean, they were all great candidates, but I'm really excited about them.
Thank you. All right, I don't see or hear anybody else. Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, so now it's up to us. So we seem to be, well, we are unanimous on the first pick. What I had in mind is that we would have a motion for the, make an offer to so-and-so if that fails, so-and-so, if that fails, so-and-so. I'm still open to that, unless we want to discuss that more. It seems like on the second and third. I gotta say personally, I'm keeping in mind that Kellie was the screening committee's first pick, and I am afraid that perhaps she just didn't interview well on that particular day, or as you said, Tom was a little bit nervous. Personally, I could be talked out of this. I don't see myself being comfortable offering her the job based on what I've heard. And like I said, I went back and listened to it again. I think before that, I would want to re-interview her and maybe some other candidates. Having said that, I'm open to a motion.
Well, I think, as you said, I think we're unanimous in our top pick. You don't think that so I suppose, what are you proposing, that we talk to Denise, and if she's good, we're done.
Absolutely.
If not, you're thinking that, I'll say next week or something, that you want to have a meeting to discuss the second option, and
I'm proposing we could do that. That seems time consuming, or I would vote in favor of enter into negotiations with Denise. If that fails, enter into negotiations with Tom. And if that fails, come back and revisit it. Perhaps ask for more candidates from the screening committee. I would want to talk to Kellie again, but maybe with one or two other candidates.
yeah, because
That's just me, though.
my second choice, we haven't ranked them
Right.
all yet. My number 2 choice is probably Kellie.
Your number 2 is Kellie. All right.
This is a selectmen's meeting, I have to.
David, you're not muted. And your number 2 is
I believe it's Tom.
Tom. Your number 2 is Kellie. So we're not in agreement. We're at a tie on the number 2. So I don't think we have any choice but to do what you just suggested, which is start with Denise and then take it from there.
And, and then if we have to, we have another interview with them.
Mr. Burke.
It's a one-shot job interview, and I know that's a lot of pressure on anyone. And I'm not sure if we bring, first of all, I'm very confident that Denise wants this job. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to work something out that's mutually agreeable to both sides. Having said that, maybe we don't have to make the second choice tonight, but I'm not sure a further interview is going to be that helpful to our determination. We can all go back and look at the interview again. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Ryan. I do have some concerns about Mr. Guerino, but they're not terribly important. I'd like to hear the town administrator's rankings if we're getting to that. But I would prefer to see if we couldn't come together for another meeting before we bring them in for interviews again. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think we're deciding if negotiations aren't successful with Denise to head to other interviews. I think we're saying if that happens, we'll get together again, perhaps in a special meeting, folks, because we got a lot to do before town meeting, and decide what to do then. I understand what you're saying about re-interviewing the same candidates. I do have this feeling that maybe Kellie, as I said, didn't present herself well, and I could see at some point asking the screening committee for 1 or 2 more. I would like to hear what Bill has to say about beyond Denise.
For me, it was Tom second, and then Kellie. With respect to what next, with the unanimity with respect to the number 1 candidate, and I think it's a strong support that we aggressively negotiate to conclude the deal with the preferred candidate.
I agree.
And there'll be time to think between now and then. If for some reason we have to reconsider, it might be that between now and then opinions have changed with regard to a 2-2 and it turns into 3-1 and it solves the problem or not. I'm not saying it does, depending on what the shift comes, but things could change. So I would focus on, and I think Brian put it well, that he's confident that we can close this deal, and I'm reasonably confident as well. Only one way to find out.
I am too. I agree with the way Mr. Burke said it. It is a gut feel. And
First a genius, now you're.
the genius was at least 2 meetings ago, please.
I think people are being nice to
bloom
me
is off
for
that
some
rose.
reason.
But I also, it is a gut thing. And I think this would be a good fit for her. And I think they're doing their best for her in Groveland, but there are limitations for what they can do. And she is ready to step up to something more, clearly. All right, so the unspoken assumption is, I think, that Mr. Wrigley will do the negotiations. I'm certainly comfortable with that. He's done plenty of negotiations with high-ranking executives. I would prefer that he keep one or two, no more than two, selectmen informed of progress. I'd like to be one of them.
I'm happy to keep all of you. I mean, there's no reason I can't.
Actually, that's true. There's nothing that prevents you from letting us all know. We just can't
As long as you don't
discuss
share
it.
it.
Right.
Right, we just can't talk to each other about it.
Or anybody else.
So I take that back. Okay, so with that, do I have any more public comment? Well, that looks like a no. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the selectmen offer the position of town administrator of the town of Stowe to Denise Dembkoski, subject to final background checks.
And,
Negotiations.
And final, I want to add final reference checks, to be perfectly frank. I want to call.
Background and
I want to call, with her permission, the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Groveland. I probably could have done that already, but I felt funny about it. Motion,
Second.
do I have a second? Motion has been made and seconded to offer the position of town administrator of the town of Stowe to Denise Dembkoski, conditioned on further reference checks and background check. Further discussion. Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is unanimous. Denise, if you're watching, listening, and I hope you are, congratulations, and we'll be talking very soon.
This may, oh, sorry.
It's part of, I'll say, this discussion, so that we have some leeway, shall we say. If I might suggest that we consider having possibly both an open session and an executive session next week. It gets posted so that
Just in case.
just in case, executive session, in case there's anything we need to discuss contract-wise or whatever after Bill gets done with it, and open session so that we could then discuss any further candidates should negotiations fall through, if we know at that point. I think that Bill may also have something else that he wanted on an open session.
I agree with that approach, and I also have two timely items for the end of the fiscal year that I'd like to add to that in open session.
Well, I think it's a good idea. We have later in the agenda our recommendations for town meeting articles. I'm suspecting that we may not reach a definitive conclusion there. We typically wrap that up the hour, 45 minutes before town meeting. That always makes me nervous. So having an extra meeting would not hurt there.
Which day
everybody-
next week?
Tom said Wednesday. Did you say Wednesday?
I'm thinking Wednesday, but I
No.
figured
No?
Not for me.
What night works for you?
Tuesday would work.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
How's Tuesday work for you?
I'm out of town Monday and Tuesday.
Thursday. Thursday the 18th.
Thursday I can make work.
Wait a minute, we can't do, all right. Hold on. Tuesday, you're saying?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Not Monday and Tuesday.
All right, I'm assuming though that if we don't need it, we won't have it.
Sounds like
Well,
we're
we're
gonna
going to definitely need it.
sounds like we're gonna need it.
I strongly would encourage we have a meeting for nothing else than what I'm going to, relates to budget and year-end closing. But also, I don't know, I'm not closing any negotiation deals without getting back together with you folks.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, if the town
Thursday-
administrator
Thursday
wants to
would-
meet, we gotta meet.
Thursday the 18th, right? Okay. Thursday the 18th, Maureen, open and executive.
Sure.
All right, very good.
7
I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Tom and Kellie, and they are not out of the process. And I want to say thank you to the Town Administrator Screening Committee. You're not being discharged, you never know, but clearly you did do a very good job.
We should
I'd like
also-
to echo my thanks to the screening committee for presenting us with, for taking a scientific approach so that we could have our gut reaction given the fine candidates you presented us with.
We should also thank all those who applied. And
Yes,
Absolutely.
appreciate everyone who applied, and look forward to the results of this. All right, so usually that would be enough for a selectmen's meeting, but it's only an appetizer tonight. Do I have the town moderator? Yes, I do. We'd like, next on our agenda is a discussion with the town moderator about the upcoming town meeting and the difficulties there. My understanding, the warrant having been posted, ultimately what to do about town meeting is up to the moderator. But he has agreed to come talk to us and get our impressions. Mr. Walrath, what are your current thoughts? We've shared a lot of emails, but please enlighten everybody else.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Sorry that I wasn't on mute. It claimed that I was.
That's okay.
Anyways,
You want to see him?
so my initial thought was that we could probably fit town meeting into the Hale Gymnasium, maybe using the auditorium as overflow, and potentially if we needed a large overflow, center school. Now, the reason that I was considering center school is my concern is it's the evening. If we do something outdoors, basically mosquitoes as well as weather would be a concern. Now, since then, I've been contacted by a number of people who are very concerned about anything going on indoors. And so I've been thinking of other options. The two, three, I guess, possible options are if we started on the Monday night, we just try to fit it indoors. That's going to have some technical challenges because of the number of people that we can fit, and that's ignoring the issue that there's a lot of concern, I think valid concern people have brought up, that going to the maximum capacity with 6-foot distancing may still be a way of causing spread of the COVID-19 virus. But that's a possibility. Another possibility would be to find an outdoor space that we could use. An interesting addendum to that I mentioned is Maynard is actually doing a drive-in town meeting at the mill in their large back parking lot. That's a possibility. The problem for us is if we were to have, say, a face-to-face part of town meeting in the Hale Gym, or even if we were to do it all in cars, how do we transmit at least audio to those cars? You can't really use a cell phone. I have people use their cell phones because of the amount of data we'd bring down any cell tower. We'd completely overload any cell towers, ignoring all the other technical issues with that. Maynard has the benefit that they have a school radio station, and they're going to be transmitting town meeting over the radio station. Now, the way that they would vote is literally it'd have, like we have little colored cards. They could have a colored 8.5 by 11 paper that you stick out the window when you want to vote, and voting would be a little more spread out, a little more complicated, but it'd be very similar to the way we do a regular town meeting. And the final set of options would be to either delay or do the minimal that we could on the Monday, and then adjourn to some outdoor site that we could do, whether it's on a weekend day that we could do daytime and bugs aren't an issue, or some location that we could spread out enough. One of the possibilities that was brought up is the Neshoba fields. The football field, certainly you could fit a lot of chairs spread out, and it's outdoors, and I don't believe it's particularly buggy there. Now that's sort of from 10,000 feet where I'm thinking. I have not made any decision, and I'm kind of still hunting around for what is the best way to approach this.
David, 2 questions. Number 1, are you interested in our input on this at this point?
Oh, obviously, yes.
Okay. And then the other thing is, am I correct to assume that you're not trying to pull together an outdoor option by June 22nd, or are you that ambitious?
If we could get an outdoor option for June 22nd, I don't see why we could not go forward. So I've been, in fact, I was typing earlier, I've been trying to look for someone that actually has a low-powered AM or FM transmitter that we might be able to use at some place like the Stowe Airport. Don McPherson has volunteered that. We have a contact at Bose who might allow us to use their parking lot. We're also allowed under our bylaws to meet or have an overflow location in any adjoining town. So, in theory, we could do something like what Maynard is doing and have people go to the mill if they don't want to meet face to face. Encourage them to go park there and
We might be able,
the AM station. We'd have to have a way of transmitting town meeting sound to an AM to the Maynard
WAVM.
WAVM. Presumably that because they're doing their town meeting that way, they've solved whatever
Right.
issue there is there. The one caveat that I put in my email to you for all of that is I think we're limited to a maximum of 2 locations. Now, if we pick Hale School, we could have multiple indoor locations or something there. But if we pick a second location, whether it's indoors at Center School, the mill in Maynard, the Stowe Airport, we probably wouldn't want to go to a third because the town clerk needs to be able to check people in, and we need to have an assistant moderator on site. We need to have counters, and anything more than 2 locations we think will probably overload.
So I have 2 selectmen at least who all 3 want to say something, and I think the town administrator wants to say something. Let me start with Mr. Ryan, who had his hand up first.
My understanding is that the First Parish Church has been doing outdoor services with a radio station run out of
I'm
the
sorry, I
church.
can't hear this.
You can take that off, I think, to speak.
I think the First Parish Church, Dave, has been doing outdoor services, and they have a radio station set up there that they can do, they have the service inside and then they transmit it out to the parking lot. I don't know if they might be amenable to sharing that technology or not,
What
but
kind of range it's got?
I've got no idea what kind of range it has. But I know that they've been doing that because they haven't been able to go into the church.
Let me go to the town administrator and then I'll get the two of you.
Actually, I think you should go to the others I've
Okay.
expressed into my activities report where I think I am, but I'm probably an outlier, so.
Brian.
First off, I agree with the chair. This is the moderator's decision, and I appreciate his asking for our input, although he has to make this decision based upon not just the safety of our town's residents, but also their feeling of safety. And we don't want to discourage people from exercising a right in New England that goes back hundreds of years, just because they're concerned not only about their own health, but perhaps the health of those that they come into daily contact with, otherwise their loved ones. With that preamble aside.
Preamble. Now we're gonna have, okay, go ahead, sorry.
I'd almost be done now if I hadn't been interrupted, but I was under the, I had an understanding that the legislature passed a measure that would allow the town to approve by selectmen's vote a 1-month budget. And therefore, we would be able to move our town meeting into July when we aren't so pressed for time, when we're not scurrying around. And again, with no disrespect to you, Mr. Moderator, this just came up on the radar screen recently, but we wouldn't be scurrying around, would have an opportunity to think this out, to put in measured plans for a town meeting in July. And we would then, I think, and actually, this is perhaps a tangential aside, but the Stowe TV people have been busting their hump over the last month to make sure that they could video and record the town meeting over at Hale. They're probably doing cartwheels up on the 3rd floor hearing about all this. If I am correct about that legislative measure, does it make sense to explore that before we try to put something together at the last minute and then communicating those last minute plans to the town? I suppose that's not input, but it's more of a question.
Mr. Ray.
As it relates to that legislation, I have a 1/12 budget ready. It's not really a budget, it's a deficit plan, monthly plan. So if the decision is to put it off into July, I'll give you the plan, you vote it and approve it, it goes to DOR.
And I'll just say that doesn't come from legislation. I think I gave you that misimpression. It comes from an administrative rule from DOR.
Well, I guess,
In any event,
like Rick Blaine, I was misinformed.
In any event, I think the instructive part is that I have what's necessary for the board to review and approve at any time.
Let's hear from Ms. Frecha.
Not what I want to do, but that's what I will do.
Okay.
My comment was that I was curious if using the radio technology, there would be enough space in the parking lot at the Hale School and perhaps a playing field there to accommodate outdoor attendance at the same time that we have indoor attendance, thereby hopefully facilitating the check-in process so it could all happen in one place. So just a question about what the technology, what's possible if we could move a radio transmission to the site we've already announced.
David, I think that depends on whether you can find a portable AM transmitter, right?
Correct. I have an educated guess who the person is who set that up, and I had emailed him a couple days ago and just noticed an hour ago that I'd used the wrong email address. The educated guess is Bob Glorioso is the most likely person he belongs to the First Parish Church, and he's very active in ham radio and other radio endeavors. So I've sent him an email to hopefully the correct address just minutes ago to ask him if he has any thoughts, and I'll follow that up with parish. But that is a possibility. We'd have to pick a part or parts of the parking lot. A lot of people end up parking down Hartley Road and into Center School.
We lost a lot
Just
of.
told me my internet connection is unstable.
Yes.
Oh, it seems to be stable again. One concern that I have with that is when we meet at Hale, a lot of people end up parking down Hartley Road and in the eastern side of Center School parking lot in places like that. And I don't know that we would want to have counters running down Hartley Road looking for potential voters who might be voting. We'd have to pick an area like the back parking lot at Hale and ask people to park there. The other bit of sand in the gears here is there's been some noise that we may have a very large turnout for the Neshoba high school
Feasibility study. Design and feasibility study.
Their vote to the feasibility study. Thank you. Yeah, design and feasibility study. And that could bring in a lot of people. And if we don't provide a parking area big enough for them, or other outdoor facility big enough for them, that's going to be a problem. And I also want to push back just very slightly on that's all the moderator's choice. I can certainly veto any decision made, but I will point out to the selectmen that under state law, it is actually the selectmen's job to provide the facilities for town meeting, not mine. So I see it as a collaboration, not as a...
I agree, and you'll get all the cooperation from us we can give you. I'll throw my own 2 cents. I find myself in agreement, in particular, with something that Mr. Burke said, which is, regardless of the actual science and medicine and orders, what's important to me is how people perceive their safety. If I'm part of a vulnerable population, if I'm a senior, or if I just had cancer treatments, or if someone in my family did, I'm not gonna want to go. I personally may feel safe there. I feel safe in this room right now with people taking their masks on and off, but that's less important to me where we're inviting people to come to a town meeting and trying to increase attendance. Mr. Ryan wants to add something.
One interesting thought I just had, Dave, is I know we've got, even if we spread out people in the gymnasium at Hale, as well as the auditorium, we're probably pushing things. But what if, and it might make your job a little easier, what about using the classrooms for small groups of 10 or 9 people? I think there's probably about 30 or 40 classrooms in there. They probably all have AV and sound already hooked up, and what you may have to do is designate one person in each classroom as a counter, but, and relay the information down. And then people that aren't comfortable going into the building at all, have those people in the parking lot. It's just a thought that came to me, that we might be able to do something like that because of the infrastructure that's there.
I am told that I have an electronic hand, and it seems to be the town clerk. Linda?
So, I had a brief discussion. I didn't get the exact total from Craig for the classrooms. but it would be 1/4 the number that could typically fit in a classroom, and to have the social distancing, and I think it was less than 9.
Thank you. I also have Ed DeLuca, I think, has his electronic hand up. Ed, you there?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Just question in terms of if you go with a technological solution, you need to specify the schedule in which you're going to demonstrate that solution works ahead of the meeting. And given that the meeting date is, how do you back from the meeting sufficient time to test the system or whatever you're attempting works? It's not essentially.
Ed, are you saying that that's a legal requirement, or are you saying that as a scientist?
I don't specify legal requirement, saying that if you want to make something that you have for, you're probably really often, especially in a hybrid environment.
Your internet connection blipped out. I didn't quite get that.
The risk, sure, the town meeting, and having a system here, bring the town meeting, not an acceptable solution. So if you have a technical solution, you need that and with sufficient so that you have an alternative if the test or where affecting this.
And I'm sorry, it's really hard to, I'm gonna have to go to somebody else. We can't really hear what you're saying.
I think you said you have to test it ahead of time.
You have to
Make
test
sure
it
that
ahead
it's
of time.
effective.
I'm sure David's
Sure,
answer is we're all going to do the best we can under the circumstances. I have another hand. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, hi, Mike Jordan, 166 Packard Road. I'd like to say I really appreciate the town moderator's efforts here to try and provide a way that we can all vote and vote safely. And just a quick comment on the technology side. I've also been speaking to the person you mentioned, Bob Glorioso. I'm also a radio ham, by the way. We talk a lot about these radio issues. Part of the problem with like the small transmitters, so either a small AM transmitter or a small FM transmitter, which I think is what Bob's been using for the First Parish Church. Those are unlicensed, basically. You just set up a small transmitter. You're restricted to very low power to be legal. Okay, and Bob, Bob said he barely is able to cover just like the close part of the parking lot at First Parish, because you are restricted to very low power, so you don't interfere with other licensed stations. So I don't think it's the issue of finding a radio transmitter, but if you find one that's legal, it will be very low power and therefore very short range. I think the solution of using the WAVM transmitter in Maynard, which is high power and licensed, that would cover the entire town of Maynard, and certainly that big parking lot at Digital, would be clear. I don't think there's any issue with getting the town meeting audio over there. You could even do it with a cell phone link if necessary. I've actually spoken to the guy who was the radio engineer over there. I'm terribly sorry.
That's all right.
You get one phone call a week, and it has to be during a Zoom meeting. And actually, so that's actually run by WUMB, I believe. That radio station is actually maintained by WUMB, and they lease it out to WAVM, for the school, part of the time. So I've actually talked to the engineer there. He's a really friendly guy. So I'm sure that this could be done. The Maynard thing would work. It would be technologically sound. I have to agree also, though, with Mr. Burke, that it would be a real scramble to get it done in time, and I think it would be preferable, if possible, to put it off for a month, and to make sure that we got the technology, we tested it. You have to get permissions, of course, from WAVM, And I think we're getting just ever so close to the deadline for the town meeting.
Right.
So I guess I would be happiest if we did the outside thing. I would not be happy about being indoors in a classroom with like 9 other people for 3 hours. It's not just the people, it's the time.
Exactly.
That's the massive one. So again, it's sort of like that.
Yep.
So that's basically what I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan's comment prompted a question, David. The town meeting having been posted and noticed for hail, let's say we wanted to use Mill and Main, and let's say Maynard completely cooperates, as does WAVM. Do we have to have a presence at Hale legally, or could we move it to Mill and Main entirely?
We could move it to Mill and Main.
Okay.
I would do a couple of technical legal hoops. I'd have probably have the
5 of us.
Moderator open the meeting at Hale,
Right.
and then with one other person, and adjourn it to Mill and Main,
Got it.
and then we'd use the reverse 911 to tell people that it's there. The other option is just to open it at Hale, but tell people that there's the option at Mill and Main, and say you
Right.
can go and park there, and there'll be checkers and counters.
Okay. Let me, I have to start putting an end to this topic because we have a very tight agenda, although we made up some time.
I've got one other thing.
So I'm going to go to each of the selectmen and then I'm ending it. So, Mr. Burke.
I'll be brief, Mr. Chair, but first I want to remark and note that at no time in my 6 years on this board has everyone, or has so many people agreed with me on so many things, including the town.
I read about an unusual planetary alignment tonight.
Maybe you guys have heard I'm dying. Maybe that's the case. I mean, but
I certainly don't know.
look, there have been a lot of intriguing workarounds discussed tonight, especially the technological ones. But I agree with Dr. DeLuca. You can't put technology in place without working to make sure that it works. We're at a handicap in trying to implement any kind of technological fixes because we're doing a lot of this stuff by Zoom to begin with. I think we need to buy ourselves more time. I'm glad that the moderator wants to share responsibility for that, but my recommendation is we need to punt. And who knows, by July, we might be in phase 10, which is group hugs are allowed again. So I just don't think we can get this done in 13 days.
Ms. Frecha.
WAVM actually has reception, or WUMB can be received in Stowe, and possibly, again, all subject to testing and getting it set up. I agree with Mr. Burke that there's a lot to be accomplished to implement a technological solution, but I find it intriguing. I'm not averse entirely to postponement if it seems like the best solution, but I think if there are willing folks that are willing to scramble and test technology, that might be possible to receive that radio station in the Hale parking lot.
But how do you feel about a purely indoor town meeting? I don't know if you were clear on that.
Personally, here I am in this room. I'm not afraid of meeting indoors, but I am, as others have expressed, I'm concerned for the citizens that will not feel comfortable. I don't want to impinge on anyone's interest or comfort showing up.
Mr. Ryan.
I agree with what Cortni said as far as, I'd do it all indoors, but I'm worried about the people that will feel disenfranchised if we can't make other accommodations for them. But one of the other things I was going to suggest, Dave, that it doesn't have anything to do with location, but you know how we end up going through the consent calendar and the budget line by line, and any one person can hold stuff up? Maybe consider needing 20 people to hold the line? rather than one, because an awful lot of times one person holds something up and it just goes forward anyway. But that might cut some of the pontificating out of some of the things that may not need to be pontificated.
Gonna ruin all the fun of having town.
All right. On that note, I think I'm going to have to call an end to this. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for updating everybody. I think there was a lot of interest in this. You've got our complete cooperation. I'm sure you have the town administrator's complete cooperation. You know, I have to add.
I'd like to ask,
Yeah.
the real, I guess, distilling it down, we need to decide, do we wish to go forward with an option to do the full town meeting starting on Monday the 22nd and going forward? Do we wish to postpone for a few days or until the Sunday and do attempt some sort of an outdoor town meeting? Or because I unless we can get a big tent, I'm really not seeing a sit-down outdoor town meeting in the Hale Field, just because of mosquitoes. Or do we do a 1/12 budget or something like the minimal that we can do, and adjourn the rest into July? And which one of those three possibilities we pick, or is picked, is going to determine what we go forward with.
I think you're hearing from the selectmen lack of comfort with a purely indoor town meeting anytime soon, openness to any form of outdoor town meeting, or I'm going to say
Combination thereof.
or combination thereof. With regard to postponement, I think you're hearing skepticism from us that it can be pulled, an outdoor of any kind can be pulled together in the next 13 days. But certainly if you and Stowe TV think that they can do it, that's great. I think you've heard from the town administrator a preference that we just go forward with social distancing indoors, perhaps at multiple locations, of course. Is that fair to say, Bill?
No, more accurately, a combination.
Or a
Using
combination,
both
okay.
Center School, I think, fits to have that gym used together with Hale and an outside seating, wiring up speakers and such, and there's a nice field out behind it. That's mine. But
So-
in any event, I'll prepare a 1/12 budget, so, and that can be approved
go.
under this, and we'll go forward if you want time.
So I think you're hearing from all of us comfort, or at least openness to some sort of combination of indoor and outdoor. But it sounds like outdoor has got to be part of anything we'd be comfortable with. Fair?
Yeah,
Alright.
I'm expecting I'll probably be indoors, but
Right.
I think, Don, my opinion that people are at distance, think they're still going to be very uncomfortable with an
Right.
all
Yeah, I'd take that off the table. I haven't heard anybody tonight that thinks that we ought to be even considering now all indoor.
So that's a worthy clarification. All indoors is off the table as far as we're concerned. And
Okay.
your internet connection's buggy again, Mr. Moderator.
And so the thing is, if we can find, if we can arrange with the Maynard radio station to beam it through, and we have either parking lot over in Maynard or the parking, maybe even Bo's parking lot to go along with the rear parking lot, then we've only really got, you know, we don't want to manage any more places than we actually have to.
All right, I need to move on. I have town council standing by for an executive session,
Can we
so.
continue this on next week's agenda? We're meeting.
David, are you available next Thursday, the 18th, to give us an update on what your thinking is?
Yes.
Okay, Maureen, could we add that to this
Okay.
growing agenda for the special meeting that we weren't even talking about before we walked in the room tonight? Great, thank you. Linda, if it's less than 30 seconds.
Yes, I I just wanted to make sure that you're thinking about if we do have to postpone the days of the week that you'd be interested in, whether Saturday or Sunday or a weekday. So that's one of the,
Yeah, I'm just going to say for myself, I feel like we are so up against it, I don't care. Whatever works. I mean, whatever increases turnout, I guess.
Point of clarification, with respect to the town of election, which is also a part of the town warrant, I haven't heard any reason, and I would be interested in our town clerk's opinion, whether we could still have the election on Saturday, June 27th as planned. That doesn't seem to me, especially with the mail-in ballot option, to present the same health concerns. But that's my thought, but I'd be willing to hear a more informed judgment.
so I think with our social distancing and we're over 1,100 ballots right now, requests that have been sent out. They all haven't been returned, and I expect we might even hit close to 1,800 by the time we're done. And that was kind of what the turnout, in-person turnout that I was expecting for this type of an election with contested races. We might get a little bit more, but I think most people will be voting by mail, and we're going to have a number of workers inside processing everything. But I think with the social distancing in the cafeteria and the area that we have in the center school, it's not going to be as difficult
Linda,
as the town meeting.
Linda, just a point
That's all
of,
I have to say.
just a point of clarification. If we postpone the town meeting, that's not going to affect the election, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, folks, we're really moving on now. I got to move on. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone else. Mr. Jordan, Mr. DeLuca.
Sorry.
So, I was kind of hoping that there'd be an agreement that we're postponing town meeting. We wouldn't have to get to the next item, but we should. So we have several, I believe it's 7 articles that we identified that would like to consider making recommendations on. I think we should take these up, see if we can come to some quick agreement on them, or if we want further discussion. If we want further discussion, send it to our special meeting. The first one is the budget for fiscal '20, which we typically do take a position on.
I move that we support Article 4.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that the selectmen support Article 4 at the town meeting. Further discussion?
Rather than have the chair and I back out of certain articles on that budget, I'm just going to abstain.
Mr. Burke, thank you so much for reminding me of that. I have to, we can't do that if both of us,
Then we're going to have to back it out.
yes, which is fine. So could I have a motion to support the Article 4, all except for the item pertaining to Neshoba Regional School District?
So moved.
So seconded.
Motion made and seconded to support the budget except for the item relating to the Neshoba Regional School District. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
With the administrative
nay.
assistant, please note my recusal.
Next motion, could I have a motion to support, no, wait, I just, I just screwed that up.
Do over?
Could I have a motion to reconsider the prior vote?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to reconsider the prior vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Could I have a motion to recommend approval of the budget, except for the line items pertaining to Neshoba Regional School District and Conservation Commission salaries?
So moved.
Motion made and, who moved it?
I take the second, I don't care.
I think Brian moved it.
Fine. Brian moved it.
Tom seconded.
Tom seconded. Motion made and seconded to consider the entire budget except for the items concerning the Neshoba Regional School District and Conservation Commission salaries. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions, me and Mr. Burke.
All right, now you want a
Now,
motion to support the school district budget.
Yes.
Courtney?
I'll move that.
Oh, I thought I just did. I was looking for
Actually,
a second.
well, I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to support the school
district.
district budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Please note my recusal.
And I'll make a motion that we support the Conservation Commission budget.
I'll second that.
Ms. Frecha, you're going to have to chair this item. You have to call for that.
So is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I abstain. Okay, thank you. That was complicated, but we did it. All right, we also had, I should really try to do this in numerical order. We skipped down to Article 41.
I move we support Article 41.
So this is the general bylaw, moving the town election date. So, my only, do I have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
I'm okay with this on the substance of it. My only hesitation was, I didn't like bringing up a bylaw change at a poorly attended town meeting. It seems like we're dealing with the attendance at town meeting on a separate track. So I think I can set that aside. So I think I'm in favor of this. And since we last discussed it, the town clerk sent out some numbers about prior voting in municipal elections. It's abysmal. We can't do any worse by moving it to Saturday. So we can only do better, and I'm in favor of anything that increases enrollment or voting. So that's how I feel about it. Anybody else want to say their position?
I'm not sure I agree with the chair that we can't do worse. And I also, as I stated when this came up originally, that I don't want to make such a major change, again, at a poorly attended town meeting, and also at, without seeing how it dry run. So I probably will not vote in favor of this, but I'll probably abstain.
Okay. Mr. Ryan, you sound like you had a hesitation.
Well, kind of for the same reasons Brian had, that, I'd like to see how this year's go, and I'm open to it for next year, but, it's,
This year, guys, I'm
It's
just
not a
gonna,
good dry run.
it's not a good dry run for anything.
This-
This is an
Not-
atypical
this is
year
an odd
in
run.
so
Yeah.
many ways.
good point.
Well,
Let's just call for a vote.
Well, one of the things I think Linda said is if it doesn't work, we go back and we change it back.
Well,
It's not-
and
it's a bylaw.
if, from my perspective, if I set aside my concerns about this bizarre town meeting, and if I just trust that we're going to find something that is fundamentally fair, then people are going to look at this thing and they're going to vote up or down on it. They're going to understand. It's easy to understand.
Mhm.
And
From what the town clerk has said, she's doing her best to serve the public well and to hear requests that voting be made easier
Right.
from various quarters. And so it seems like a well-considered article to me.
we ready to vote?
Yep.
So, motion is made and seconded to support Article 41 at town meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And against, and abstentions.
abstain.
3-0-1. Mr. Burke. Thank you. Article 44.
I'll make a motion that we support Article 44, the Box Mill Bridge Article 97 petition.
Second.
So this one I put on here because we obviously supported it in a letter to, I guess it's DCR or whoever. We support the concept of potentially doing a taking. It seems sensible that we should be at least ready with a position about whether or not we support it. This might be one of those we don't necessarily have to say it unless it seems necessary. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of supporting Article 44 at town meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Article 52.
I move we support Article 52, the commuter rail van transportation service.
Do I have a second?
Here.
Here? Second?
Second.
Oh. Motion made and seconded to support Article 52. So this is something the town administrator and we have worked pretty hard on this year. It seems like forever ago. It was before coronavirus. But thanks to Bill, we negotiated and had an agreement with the Council on Aging for the use of a van. Seems to be a service people really will benefit from. It's a pilot program. If nobody shows up, we stop doing it. Bill, you want to add anything on this? You've worked pretty hard on this one.
No, I think we're good. We talked about it before.
Further
Subject to
discussion?
people working in an office again.
Pardon me? Yes,
Subject to
yes.
people
If anyone ever goes
commuting.
back to Boston.
Well,
It's maybe, it's
I
maybe
suppose
moot.
right now, that's part of my concern, that we're gonna put 10 grand in, you know, I know it's relatively short change, but we're gonna put 10 grand into something when people aren't going into Boston.
Well,
And people may never wanna go into Boston again.
it's going to be a pilot program. I think we have to assume that the commuter rail will bounce back eventually, as will the rest of society. This is something that people have been clamoring for years. I'm in favor of it. Let's just go to a vote. Is that all right? So, motion made and seconded to support Article 52 at town meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
I'll abstain.
And abstentions. So 3-0-1, Ryan. 58. By the way, if anybody who abstains on one of these wants to change it, that can be done, so long as one of the people who voted in favor of it does a motion for reconsideration, which I think any of us would do out of courtesy. Design funds for the Stowe Town Hall restoration. I put this on here because this is a big one. I don't want to take a position on it, but we ought to talk about it. This seems like, to me, the worst year imaginable for this to be out here. What do you think? You're on this committee, Tom.
I look at this as, it's gonna be a tacit approval to do a $3.5 million project.
Exactly.
All right? I personally will be spending as much time and energy as possible to keep it below that, and I think that the rest of the committee will do the same, to keep it as low as possible. I think I'm torn because I probably won't vote for a $3.5 million project, but I think that this gives us the options to get a good project done, hopefully for less money. You know, with good faith on the committee to try to do a smaller project. At the same time, even if it goes down in flames when we go to ask for funding to do the actual construction, we'll have all the if we do this, we'll have all the plans that we need to do a good project on it, and then we can probably decide to do pieces of it or otherwise. So I think I am in favor of this article. I'd also like to hear what the rest of the town has to say. I don't have a burning need to vote on this one right now. I may say something at town meeting, you know, along the lines of what I just said. But, you know, it's an awful lot of money, but we're dead in the committee is not quite dead in the water, because I think we've still got about $70,000 or $80,000 left. But I think it would, you know, we won't, if this goes down, we won't be doing a $3.5 million project, and we probably won't be talking about it any time in the next 5 years. And we'll have to come up with
Plan B, shall we say, which may be doing just what we need to do to make sure that the building keeps standing.
I'd like to hear from others.
I think Courtney's on this committee also, so she may provide a much different perspective.
Ms. Frecha?
I think that, that we've come to this unfortunate juncture where not only did we have a little trouble with our first firm with the way we work together and not obtaining the documentation that we wanted through the process that we underwent with them. And now we're at a point where it does seem hard to consider this building repair in the context of all the other things that are coming up. At the same time, the committee has sort of started this effort, and unless someone wants to call us off of it, we have been charged with assessing the building and coming up with a proposal to the town for what to do with it. And this is part of completing that task in order to really propose a complete solution. We need to follow through with the rest of our charge. And I again think it's rather an unfortunate time to be looking at such a high price tag, and I find it very difficult that we are constrained by law and the procurement process, and so many things to spend a ton of money on a project which in the private sector would perhaps cost a lot less. But here we are, and I just kind of feel like we've either got to go for it now or just forget it, throw our hands up, and as Tom said, do our best to stabilize the building and walk away, and who knows if it'll come up again. So
Mr.
see what
Burke?
the voters say.
I'm sorry, are you done?
Okay? Yeah.
Mr. Burke?
I'm not as close to this issue as my colleagues, Mr. Ryan and Ms. Frecha. I think, though, that I disagree with the idea that if we vote for this design funds, that's a tacit approval of a $3.5 million project. I think what we're authorizing by this is for the Stowe Town Hall Building Committee to look at the money, see whether it should be spent, given all the other demands on the town's fiscal responsibilities, and two, how to set this design plan up so that you consider, or that the committee considers, a less than comprehensive, less than a $3.5 million project. Just remember, I have utmost good faith in the committee, and there's absolutely no reason why a committee can't return money that it doesn't use. So I support the article.
I don't see myself voting in favor of this. For me, it was on the bubble before coronavirus, and it's just gotten worse. I think the committee did exactly what was asked of them. No knock on the committee whatsoever. This is exactly what you had to bring. You got a design, concept design, that I think it's fair to say you have little faith in, and I don't blame you. My problem with it is twofold. Number one, even if I were convinced that this is a good idea, I think we may be at the point now where good ideas, where we can't afford some good ideas. And this may be one of them. And so I'm not comfortable now, without having a better idea of what the revenue picture is, giving a green light to moving down this road. My second thing is, I know what Mr. Ryan is saying when he says it's a tacit approval. The concept design, the design development that the article authorizes to be done is one that the committee doesn't particularly like based on the concept design. I trust the members of the committee to try to knock it down, but nonetheless, technically it's wanting to do a design that nobody likes.
Actually,
Please.
pardon me for interrupting, but the part of the point of asking for this additional funding is to work with a firm that we feel we have a better working relationship with, and
Thank
to
you.
amend the work that's been done so far to both reduce the potential price and also to define the project properly so that it is a project that is feasible.
So, all right, so fair point. Still a plan that you don't like, but a new firm that you may
Right,
like
and
better.
The plan could be amended. The point
Right.
is that we have been given a price for the items that were initially sort of discussed and then presented to us by the firm that we've been working with. And our conversations were so poor that we felt we weren't able to fully negotiate the list of items that need attention on the building. So partially this article is about revisiting the process. Now, the timing is still lousy, whether we're trying to do better work now or not.
Point taken. So it's $300,000 from CPC to try to see if there's a more realistic option.
Yep.
That's probably the best way I can look at it. I'm still maybe not, Mr. Town Administrator.
So for me, in my experience, you don't know what you have until you go through design development. This is the opportunity through design development to look at options, meaning to say, code improvements only. What is the price of that? Because minimally, you either bring this up to code or you let it rot. And so, if I was on that committee, the engineer you hire when you go into design development, that should be one of the deliverables. Give us a design with a cost estimate for code improvements only. Secondarily, beyond that, if there are other deliverables or preferred improvements, they can offer those to you. But you won't have any idea what it's going to cost you bringing it to code unless you go through design development.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So part of this,
And the money's
so,
coming, it's not new appropriations, so as bad as our revenues might be, or not, and that's, time will tell, this is previously appropriated money that's sitting there for the express purpose
Yeah.
of historic renovations on historically significant buildings.
so even though you had a design, concept design, that had a bad price tag and that had a bad price tag, what you're doing essentially is kind of starting over with a new engineer. And although you have that concept design, the charge to the engineer is going to be go back to the drawing board and try and give us a bunch of options. Scale it back, just code. No?
Yeah.
This concept isn't design, by the way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
a
know.
design.
It's a
so
cartoon.
This,
I know.
for me, the work hasn't started yet. I
know.
wouldn't know
Correct.
anything about the nature and extent of the scope and the improvements without going through the next step. I don't think anybody else could know. If you want to be able to identify and define the nature and extent of the issues over there, this step is next, or that building just sits there.
So I'm not going to vote in favor, but I'm going to abstain, and I may want to revisit this at one of our.
I actually think we should go forward with it. I'm hoping my colleagues will, we will work diligently to
Yeah.
get the cost, keep the cost down, and, when it comes out the other side.
It's a tough sell, though. It's a tough sell.
Oh, it absolutely is. I'd rather put this 200 grand into doing some real work on it rather than paying for design that
Right.
I don't think we really need, but we're forced into.
So let's go to a vote. I'm going to abstain. And
I move to
revisit it.
support Article 58.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to support Article 58. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, abstain, chair. So 3-0-1, Salvi. All right, Article 60.
How about 59?
It was on the list. How about Article
It's on
59?
my list.
Yeah, it is. No, I said it was.
I move we support Article 59,
I'm right again.
COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Fund.
Second.
Any discussion? I mean, I had an email exchange with Mike Kopczynski. He answered my questions. It seems like a pretty well thought out, narrowly tailored program. I don't remember the details as I sit here right now, but
Temporary 90-day relief paid in, paid after the fact to folks that are pretty much already I mean, a percentage of the people this is serving are folks that are already part of the 80% or less of the area median income, and they are, you know, they've lost their ability to pay their rent, pay
Right.
directly to the landlord. There's a 70-15-15 split at this point, so we pay 70, the landlord eats 70, and the tenant is still on the hook for.
Landlord eats 15.
I mean, landlord eats 15 and the
Out of
tenant,
CPC funds.
and this is CPA funds.
Is there a cap on the
CPA funds,
amount?
thank you.
The amount, I believe, that is being asked for now is $250,000, and it's unlikely to all be spent.
No, I'm talking a cap on the amount per
Unit?
unit. I'm just curious.
The cap is that you pay for the month that the tenant cannot pay for, and we pay 70% of their
Right,
rent.
but not if they're paying $7,000 a month in rent.
No, but this is
I
primarily pilot, so it's already, it's only for, there is a cap.
Yeah, if they're
Yes.
paying $7,000 in
Not
rent and
having-
they're low income and qualify, there's a problem there.
Yeah,
Right. So,
it's,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm good.
I think Ski did a great job, thoughtful, very detail-oriented, and helps the town, not just the landlords, but, excuse me, not just the tenants, but the landlords. I am going to be voting in favor of supporting this resolution.
I think it's a good use of the money.
Then let's go to a vote. All those in favor of supporting Article 59 at town meeting, please signify. Did I get the number right? Yes,
yeah,
yes, I did. Please signify by saying aye.
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 That's unanimous. Article 60, Bill, do you want to add anything about this? I mean, we've talked enough about this. This is some seed money, for lack of a better word, those almost $300,000 to hire an LSP. Should we need it, and we very well may, in fiscal '21, to start dealing with DEP, should they find us to be a responsible party for any of the PFAS problem.
Nothing new. Talked
Yeah,
about it several
yeah.
times. We're expecting a notice of responsibility come from DOR with regard to PFAS. Haven't received it yet. Part of the reason why is that they've pulled out of the field, but it's coming at some point. Worked for some period of time, reducing scope from what was an estimated cost of probably $1 million plus for the whole phases total. And this is to get us through the first phase with an LSP to respond to the requirements that DOR has established, deliverables under a notice of responsibility and an IRA.
I think whether we support this or not, it's something we have to do.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked to the town of Princeton, or I talked to the lawyer they hired. This is the first step. You know, you gotta hire an LSP. There's a 6-phase thing you go through. Phase 1 is developing a plan for how you're gonna deal with it, and that requires an LSP. So, shame on us if we didn't have this on the warrant.
I mean, the fact is, if we appropriate, we don't begin to spend until we receive
Right.
the notices.
Exactly.
This is based on an estimate from an LSP that we've been engaged in here for the possible contamination underneath the building. Very versed with the process. It's communicated with DEP on several occasions. The scope is detailed, but we sit tight if we appropriate it until such time as we've been put into action by a notice by DEP.
Mr. Burke, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we support this. The town administrator has explained how this initial expense is not only prudent, but it's unavoidable. And I just want to remark that in the materials that were sent out in the correspondence file today, I saw that the governor has proposed a grant program that might help defray some of these costs.
It looked like it was for treatment.
Just treatment? No, we could
That's
take a
how
look at it.
That's how I read
I
it,
thought I saw
yes.
some remediation in there too.
Maybe. I know Maureen gave it to Bill.
Yeah, remediation is past the first phase. There won't be any remediation for a couple of years until the process is complete.
Right.
This is identifying and defining the nature and
Yep.
extent of the problem.
That you've got to remediate.
I got a motion, do I got a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to support Article 60. Any further discussion?
Aye. No.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 That is unanimous. It was unanimous, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. Article 61, you know, I think we had a hearing on this, or on the warrant, February 28th. I had notes, I reviewed them yesterday, and now my understanding of this, and it could be wrong, this is for a design and feasibility study. $1.5 million is the total cost to be split among the 3 towns, I believe. The key to this would be done before MSBA formally agrees to reimburse any part of the construction cost. But my memory of this is that if the district votes to do this by a certain date, that I thought was June 30th, then it is eligible for reimbursement by the MSBA. I do have at least one school committee member, I think. Ms. Viverito, do you want to add anything on that, if you're there?
Hi guys.
Hi.
Yeah, so I think that what you're asking is, will the feasibility study be subject to reimbursement?
I think I'm asking, is my memory correct that if the district passes this by a certain date, it is eligible for reimbursement, and if it passes it after that, it's not?
So the way that this works, and if anybody wants more information on this, we have a very informative presentation on the school district's website. But the way that it works is starting on August 1st begins our eligibility period, and we have 270 days from that moment to secure funding for a feasibility study. If after the feasibility study is complete, if the 3 towns vote the second time to go forward with the full project, then all of the project, including the feasibility study, will be partially reimbursed.
So I had the impression from the hearing we had that the vote, there was a need to take this vote prior to June 30th to make it eligible for reimbursement. Is that not correct?
That is not correct.
Huh.
So the thing that is pressing, so if the towns take a vote and the vote fails, there is a process that MSBA then makes us go through, and we could ask the towns to hold special town meetings to take another vote, which we would rather avoid, seeing as how we have our bite at the apple right now. So we're looking to secure the vote for the feasibility study at this town meeting because there is not another regularly scheduled one within the eligibility period.
Oh. Okay. So if we vote now or during the eligibility period, it's eligible for reimbursement.
Yeah, I mean, so.
But you just can't be.
If we vote no, MSBA will sever, and like the eligibility period expires, then they will sever their connection with us and move on to the next town. There's a very long wait list.
And you just can't be sure that we're going to have a special town meeting in the fall.
Right?
Okay. Now,
and why
maybe that's
I don't see the logic in like making that any part of the strategy here, because we have it on the warrant right now, and not much is going to be different in 2 months, I wouldn't imagine.
No, what I was sort of getting at, and I think it's still valid, is the high school project is still at a very early stage, and you know, it's hard to say you're in favor or against the high school project right now, in my mind. But it's easier to say that you're in favor of this initial design and feasibility study, because I tend to think you're going to do a design and feasibility study eventually anyway. And we might as well vote it at a time when we can possibly get reimbursement for this.
Yeah, I mean, the clock is definitely ticking, so we need to be mindful of that. We only have 270 days.
All right. Thank you, Leah.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ryan?
You know, part of it is, this is the friendly way of asking for the money.
Well, yes, that's a good point.
Which we've.
That's a good point.
We've encouraged over the years because we've been asked for money the nasty way.
Actually, you know, Leah, are
thank
you
you.
still there?
They said how they're gonna pay for it.
I'm still here.
Tom brings up a good point. One of the things we've noticed in the change in administrations, in the past, chances are they would have actually gone to the point to force us to have a special. So we kind of appreciate Superintendent Clenchey's more transparent and considerate approach. And that's been remarked on in several of these
Right.
meetings.
I think,
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
I think this time they've asked us to approve it versus basically saying, you've got to hold a special town meeting to disapprove it.
Yes.
Or we go forward.
I agree with you.
So it's the friendly way. So it's,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr., I was going to go to him.
No, I'll
Yes,
I'll
no, I
wait.
did, no.
No,
I
Ms.
see.
Frecha.
Please, please, no, he was first. Please,
Pardon?
he was first.
No.
Okay. Ms. Frecha, please.
I just wanted to say, perhaps I'm looking at this too abstractly, but I see this as similar to the design funds for the town hall, or the money for PFAS, that we need to explore things and see what it looks like and just understand it better. And so it makes perfect sense to me to vote for this feasibility study.
Thank you.
I'll make
Mr.
a
Burke.
oh,
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. If you, I don't have much to say, but if I'm permitted, I would just say, this is the kind of thing that the town, the member towns are wise to pursue because of the stacking that our school committee representative who was on the line mentioned. If we don't buy into this now, we don't get a chance to get reimbursed later. We are not tied to the June 30th date. I've been trying to explain that for the last month, and I think I sent the chair some materials on that.
I couldn't find it. You did. I just couldn't
Never
find
mind.
it today.
But the point here is that I was concerned with the way that the article was written, that if only one or two of the towns passed it, the other town would have to make up the balance. I've had discussions with the town administrator, and this is pursuant to the other measures that the school district has floated for the past 20 years. And I'm not so sure that, I have nothing to say about Superintendent Clenchey's administration, but I don't think this was too ham-fisted an approach that any previous school committees or school district superintendents attempted. I think this is consistent with what has always been done here. It's the right way to present it to the towns.
You're losing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, yes, this is...
or not?
What?
Do you support it or not?
I know, I've just got to say just a couple more things. Yes, so I do support it. It was presented in good faith. I'm just saying, I don't think, and in the right way. I'm not sure that the school district has ever presented it, something like this, too many times in the wrong way. And it's just that we don't have to do this by June 30th. And the one point I just wanted...
That's fine, I get it.
No, the one last point I want to make is, as the town administrator said, and consistent with our previous experience with these measures, if two of the three member towns pass it, then it becomes the obligation of the third member town anyway, which just means that we don't have to vote this by the end of June. If the other two towns, who seem to have a better tracking on going through with their town meetings, if they approve it, then it's not, it's a moot issue. It's not a live issue.
Sure.
It just becomes accepted by the district. So
With all
there's-
due respect,
Can I interject really quickly? All three towns have to approve it.
my understanding was not. Do I got that wrong, Mr.?
Probably misunderstood the question. All three towns have 60 days within which to take a vote. If you don't, then it's presumed to be correct. And then two that had taken it, so essentially you've got unanimity.
Okay, so, but it doesn't have to be done by June 30th, is the point I want to make. And there is we'd have to see how it shakes out in the other two towns. But having said that, I would agree to support this article.
Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make the motion, we support Article 61, the Neshoba Regional School District feasibility study.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to support Article 61, Neshoba Regional School District feasibility study. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And that's unanimous. Leah, thank you very much for your input.
I think it's important to know, again, feasibility study is pre-designed. It doesn't
Right.
force you into anything. It's during the design development that you'll have the opportunities to, what's the nature and extent of the scope? Is it a new building? Is it a rehab? Is it an ad reno? This is just feasibility, space use type of thing.
Because
All right.
some of the stuff that happened about 25 years ago.
So let's keep moving.
Okay.
We already took care of it. I got town council texting me.
Tell me that later over.
So on the
some
next
other
one,
time over.
the July 1 appointments, no need to read them all. Just say, as reflected in the list of appointments dated June 9th.
All right.
Is that assuming that we've heard back from all these people?
Maureen updated this, and the one that I'm marking June 9th, 2020, which is the one that was at your place today. Maureen, this reflects all people we have heard from, correct?
Yes, it does. There's
Okay.
only one that we're missing. We'll track her down.
So what I would suggest is take them in groups, do one-year appointments with terms ending June 30, 2020, as reflected on the document. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Ryan.
I move to make the following appointments of individuals and committee members, the positions having been duly posted, for which the applicants have applied, listed as one-year appointments with terms ending June 30, 2020.
On the
Or
document
2021, on the document that we received.
dated June 9th, 2020, which I've just dated. Very good. Motion made and seconded to make the one-year appointments with terms ending on June 30th, 2021 on the
I second
document
that.
dated June 9th. Further discussion? I did get a second, didn't I?
Courtney?
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, same goes for the two-year appointments with terms ending June 30th, 2022 on the document dated 6/9/20.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to make the appointments labeled two-year appointments with terms ending on June 30th, 2022 on the document dated 6/9/20. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 That's unanimous. Mr. Ryan.
Three-year appointments with terms ending June 30th, 2023 on the document dated 6/9/2020.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to make the three-year appointments with terms ending on June 30th, 2023 on the document labeled 6/9/20. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And five-year appointments with terms ending on June 30th, 2025 on the document dated 6/9/2020.
Second.
And motion made and seconded to make the five-year appointments with terms ending on June 30th, 2025 on the document labeled 6/9/20. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Hey, Bill, I noticed you just got another five-year appointment. I'm assuming that's not going to be your last one. Bill Byron?
I was on the ZBA meeting where he was endorsed by his colleagues. He says he's not
He's
willing to
got,
commit for the full 5 years, but that's the only term that was available.
well, we'll see about that.
I'm surprised I didn't hear him
Thank
go,
you
I
for-
object.
Thank you.
Thank you for being willing, Bill.
Mr. Town Administrator, anything you want to cover in your report that you have not covered?
No, both were covered.
Yes, that's
And I
right.
provided Craig, as a result of last week's meeting that we had with regard to the update on partial opening. Craig gave you some bullets I forwarded
Okay.
to you, just an nature of the change between what we were doing then and what we're doing now. It's pretty straightforward.
Yes. Any questions about that? Reopening of the town building? Okay.
No, sounds like so
Um,
far.
Liaison reports, let's try to keep it, shall we say, focused, considering the hour, and we have town council waiting for an executive session. Ms. Frecha, sorry.
Couple of short things to say. Conservation Commission had a bunch of, apparently a lot of trees came down in a recent storm over the weekend out at Lake Boone. And so the reminder is, if you have a tree that you would like to have removed, or more than one, and it might be within 100 feet of a wetland, please get in touch with the Conservation Commission. And there are a number of openings that have just come up on the Open Space Commission. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
I'm good for now.
You sure? Or am I intimidating you with my,
I'm just trying to move things along for you.
you're a good guy. You get a model, or a medal.
All right. You know what? Because of that,
Take the medal away.
Acting Chief Solis is doing a very fine job working with some of the social justice groups, and he's reached out to them so that to make sure that everybody stays safe here in town, and I think it's turned out to be a fairly decent, I'll say, collaboration, with them letting him know and him asking how he can help.
That's great.
So it's, and the police and the fire department both did a fine parade of the seniors down 117 on Saturday. I don't know if anybody saw it, but
I didn't.
it went on past my house for about 20 minutes with the police leading it, and fire department in the middle of it, and they headed west.
Well, that serves you right, because you get spared during orchard season. I just want to echo what you said about Acting Chief Solisi and his reaching out. I've been spending a lot of time with the police department, as you have, for reasons we'll get into later. I think our department, I just want to say in general, our department is gifted with several officers who are excellent communicators. I think, this is a challenging time for so many, and I think questions will be eventually asked of our police department, and I am quite confident of the ability of our officers to answer those legitimate questions. I've asked a lot of them myself, and they have pretty good answers. Anyway, Mr. Burke.
Oh, thank you. In order to keep myself in running for a gold star, I'm just going to limit it to one liaison report. The LACAC had its public forum last Thursday night by Zoom. It was very successful. I thank the chair of our board for appearing. We made a good record for Comcast and the licensing authority, or we're the licensing authority, but the government agency considers those licensing applications. Why Stowe TV is important to the town, and why we need the improvements, including high definition, that we do. Thank the chair for assisting us in that.
I enjoyed it. I stayed for the whole hour. It was interesting. You did keep it short, and for that, we were out at gold stars. You get the purple paperclip of merit.
Hip hip hooray.
I don't have
If
anything.
it starts talking to you, Brian.
I must be dying. You must know something I don't know.
I don't have anything. So with that, I will take a motion to go into executive session. For those still with us, we will be, unusually, we will be returning to open session.
Mr. Chairman, I move to convene an executive session to pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 5, for the purpose of considering matters related to a criminal investigation and to reconvene an open session thereafter.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to convene an executive session pursuant to 30A, Section 21A5, and to reconvene in open session. This requires a roll call vote. Mr. Ryan?
Aye.
Ms. Frecha?
Aye.
And Mr. Burke?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are in executive session, and I will
We
now
make sure that,
text.
you got that, John?
Do I have any participants other than you guys?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, 3 of us.
All right, that's fine. Hey, Tom, could I borrow your hard copy of the report? I cannot find
Here,
it.
here.
Oh, never mind, Courtney's got it. I have my in-house IT department working on this.
And family.
I love the way you print this. This is like
It would not let me do
old-fashioned broadsheets.
It's legal.
Oh, there they are. Very
So I was
good.
kind of going to comment on that too. the legal
Hey,
one, the legal
hi.
I
Okay.
never go on video, this is rare.
Who's that?
I don't either. Reminds me of
You're
my
always on video, you do very well.
reminds me of my receding hairline.
Does Jonathan need to know your own?
I already told
John is on here.
No,
All
The
right.
other John.
upstairs.
Is he? Okay, I'm going to proceed. We're back in open session. In the past couple of months, the board voted to conduct some due diligence interviews at the police department as a result of the events in April concerning former Chief Marino. And specifically, the board wanted to speak to the officers and dispatchers. Maureen, you've got are you on some other device?
No, I was just gonna text Jonathan Daisy, see if he were out.
Some room has 2 devices on, picking up the sound.
Are there 2 versions?
Is your phone on? Is it John's on?
My phone is on, but it's John Whitten.
Should I go up and check with Jonathan?
But
All right, it seems like it's gone away. No, it hasn't. Stowe TV, it seems to be coming from you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so.
Thanks. Now it's gone. Thank you. All right, so we voted to conduct some due diligence interviews at the police station as a result of the events in April concerning former Chief Marino. And we voted to speak to each full-time officer and dispatcher, look them in the eye and ask them what they knew. And we did this for several reasons, in part for any possible civil liability exposure that the town might be facing, to see the extent to which town resources or time may have been used, and also, frankly, to check on our officers, to see that they were doing okay, and evaluate it for ourselves. Selectman Ryan and I and Town Council John Whitten spent the larger part of 2 days at the department interviewing 10 officers and 4 dispatchers. Each interview was approximately 10 to 15 minutes in length. Attorney Whitten was on Zoom, and there was an attorney for the union present as well. And at the conclusion of it, we asked Town Council to do a written report that the board would consider whether to release to the public. That's what we just did, and we voted to release it to the public. Town Council's report will be posted to the website sometime tomorrow. Selectman Ryan and I agree with his findings. And as you'll see tomorrow, essentially what Town Council recorded was that in each interview, when asked what they knew, if anything, every officer and every dispatcher said that they didn't know anything. Some reacted with quite a bit of emotion. It had a hard effect on several officers at the police department. None of us has any reason to think that the responses we got were not true. We discovered no use of town resources or time other than what has been reported in public media. And we did remind each officer and dispatcher about resources that the town already has available to deal with difficult situations like this. And it appears that they were grateful for that. I will not summarize this any further. You can read it yourself. As I said, it'll be on the website. I think we should put it on the front homepage and the Selectmen's page, not on the police page. We can put it on the Selectmen's page. Any members of the board have anything to add? Mr. Burke.
Just briefly, this is a horrible event in our town, something that no one ever expected, and that's what this investigation confirmed. The chair spoke of due diligence. His talking as a litigator. It was more than due diligence. It was the right thing to do. And I'm proud of our town. I'm proud of our Board of Selectmen for getting out ahead of this and conducting these interviews. I'm proud of our police officers and dispatchers for participating in these interviews without any overtime, at least as far as the police officers, as far as I know. They also wanted to get this behind them. I'm very proud of our town, and I'm proud of our Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Ryan, anything to add?
The only thing I wanted to add is that, I lost my train of thought. No, one of the things Jim and I also did is we expressed our gratitude to the police department and the dispatchers for in a tough time keeping everything together. They've been doing a good job. They've been depending on each other. The officers have been very professional, and we expressed our gratitude on behalf of the board and the people of the town of Stowe, because it wasn't easy for them. Some of the dispatchers were taking some very, very nasty phone calls from people from out of state and all over the place. But, again, they were very professional. They dealt with it. And, it's not easy for them. So
I want to note two things and then we'll close. One, of course, neither town council, me, nor Mr. Ryan are criminal investigators. We're not trained in that kind of thing. Town council, though, believed the officers and dispatchers when they said they didn't know anything, that he believed everything they said, as did I, and I think I can speak for Mr. Ryan, so did he.
correct.
I also want to note that the state police, of course, have conducted their own investigation. I don't have any idea what the status of that is, but I can tell you this. They have not asked to speak to anyone at the Stowe Police Department. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.